the first item was to welcome our new members, and would it make sense to just kind of go around and do a quick round robin for everybody to say a few words about yourselves?
Yes, please. I want to meet everyone.
Well, you're already talking, Susan, so you want to go ahead?
Me? Mm-hmm. All right. Hi, I'm Susan Zundel. I have lived in West Linn for 4 years now. I've lived in the Portland area almost my whole life. So I've been in and around all the suburbs, but only in West Linn for a few years. Have kids at West Linn High School. I work down at Youth Music Project. I've always been involved in the performing arts in some way in my life, usually in connection with youth. And I'm just excited to be involved. I'm the former state president of Oregon PTA. I served as a president from 2013 to 2015. So I like to be involved in my community. I like to know what's going on. I like to participate. I like to advocate. And I also have this interest in arts and the performing arts. So I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, welcome. And Charity, do you want to go next? I'm just going off people's labels on the Zoom. So if people have things on their label that is not you, like if your kid left you your laptop or something, I apologize.
Sure. Sure. I'm Charity Hudnut, and I've lived in West Linn since 2012. And my two daughters, one was at Trillium. Well, they both were at Trillium and now went through Rosemont. I have one now at Jesuit High School. I actually have 2 degrees, and one in classical music, one in theater. I performed all over in Europe and whatnot. Switched careers into medical. Just fell into that randomly, but obviously I love the arts. Still very active.
Hello, my name is Cheryl, and I'm one of the.
Sorry, my bad.
That's okay. And just met Doug randomly. We used to meet for coffee, and had great conversations. So it was really a lot of fun, and I love living in West Linn. I love my community, and I'm excited to be part of this group.
Thanks, Charity. And Dr. Joy? I assume just Joy that you're Zoom.
I know, sorry. I was hoping to have arrived at my daughter's gymnastics so I could turn my camera on and I could focus, but I'll be there in like 2 minutes if I can introduce myself on camera. If that's
sure.
Okay.
Do you want us to come back to you? That's no problem at all.
Yes, please. Okay.
Okay, no problem. Okay, and Lauren, are you officially back with us, or okay? Then I will let you kick off the next bits of the agenda.
Thank you. Yes, I'm back. I will add my introduction to the list here. I'm Lauren Beanie. I've been on the commission since it got restarted, whatever we decided 4 years ago. I'm the current chair, but as with Carrie, do not expect to retain that role for much longer past tonight. I just grew up around art and artists, and I do not proclaim to be an artist myself, but similar to you, Susan, I just wanted to kind of get involved in the community, and my kids are young. They're both at Trillium actually right now. So hoping to kind of help build a community that they can be proud of and excited to participate in and see what's around. So I'm so excited that we have new faces. Thank you all for your time and for your applications and for your dedication to this. It's really exciting to have some fresh blood here. Maybe not blood, fresh joy, fresh bodies, fresh something less. Okay, so I think we've officially called to order. It doesn't look like we have any visitors, but does anybody have any public comments that they would like to include in our meeting this evening? Sometimes we have somebody from the historical community. We often will have a little bit to say, but looks like we can move right along to that. Since we didn't have a January meeting. Oh, yes, Mary.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure. I have never met Charity, and so I just wanted, or Susan. So hi, I'm Mary Baumgardner, and I'm the City Council liaison. So thank you so much. And Joy, I have met. I'm so excited that you all are excited to be here.
Perfect. Thank you, Mary. And I should allow both Mel and Doug to introduce themselves as well for those of you who might not know them before I just plow forward. So, Doug.
Sure. I'm Doug Erickson. I'm the library director and also director of community services here for the city. I've been in this role for library director for 7 years, working with community services officially for the last 6 months or so, and was the original staff liaison with Mel for the Art and Culture Commission. So many of you I know, of course, it's great to see you, Charity. And I think that, again, our role is really wonderful for Mel and I, because we really are your logistical team and your kind of gophers, if you will. We can go get things for you and bring it to you. But this literally is a citizen-led commission, excuse me. And we're here to support that and support decisions that you decide to make for the benefit of the city. And I do have an art background, but I will try to keep that to myself and let everybody.
Wait.
And so Mel's right here, and she's.
Yep. So I'm the one that sends out the agendas and all of that good stuff. And like Doug said, we're just here to help you and facilitate. I've been with the city since 2014 and at the library for 8 years. I used to work in the Parks Department. I grew up in Lake Oswego. I lived in Westland for 20 years, 25 years. I have the library dogs. If you're familiar with the library, I have Otto. And then we were crazy and got 2 more. So we have Booker and Whiskey. So if you're on Facebook at the library, every once in a while, you'll see them pop up. And they occasionally come in and visit us at the library. So if you ever had any questions, just shoot me an email and I'll be able to get an answer for you. And welcome to all the new faces.
Mel and Doug are both great at sort of helping us navigate what we need to do with the city and who to get in touch with if we have questions or invitations to send out. So, Dr. Joy, I see we can see your face now. Thank you for joining us. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you very much. I recently graduated with my doctorate in sociology, so I am riding this wave so much. So excuse me. My name is Joy, and I came from Zimbabwe originally. I then lived in New York City for 5 years, then went to upstate New York for 15 years. One of my friends was very much involved with the community in Syracuse. So when I came to Oregon, I wanted to be a part of a community because I admired what my friend was doing back in Syracuse. So I came here looking to plug in, but part of my time, a lot of my time was really focused on, I just really wanted to get this monkey off my back. I really wanted to finish. A lot of people were saying, now that school is behind you, what are you going to do? I was like, no, it's ahead of me. It's ahead of me. Now I can really be creative and do the things that I've been wanting to do. And arts and culture is really one of my passions. I love music. I love musicians. I love people who can paint and do all of those things because I cannot do any of that. I can dance. I am executive director of a nonprofit called It Takes a Village. And what I've done every year is to bring Zimbabwean musicians, is to bring art while we are doing fundraising. But for me, for the most part, it's really about connection, about talking about around food and around all these really different cultural aspects of that sometimes we don't even get to appreciate. So I figured I would really love to plug in and see what aspects of arts and culture that I can plug into.
Wonderful.
I have 4 children. Sorry, I have 4 children, 20, 14, and 12. My 14-year-old is at West Linn, and I was just dropping her off at gymnastics, and she knows your daughter, Charity. I was like, introduce yourself, say hi. And she goes, no, mommy, I'm too shy.
Oh, silly girl.
Sweet. Well, thank you for joining us. And I'm so excited to hear sort of just the varied interests in all the different kinds of arts beyond just visual, because I think it's easy to get sort of stuck as the art thing. Great. We do have a couple other members who are not with us right now. Andrew was getting his tires something, I think, and said he would join as soon as he could. And then her name is escaping me right now. Carrie.
Beata.
Yeah, Beata is also a member, and I'm not sure if she'll join us later or not. So, Doug, can you give me control, or can you share the minutes from December?
Yeah.
You probably already have the ability to share. Usually I think it's just enabled.
Yeah, I think you
I
can
typically
share it.
just attend meetings. I don't drive them. So thank you. Okay. So as I was saying before, we didn't have a January meeting because it was like the 2nd or something, was the first Wednesday. So our minutes that we last had a meeting for was December of last year. Carrie, since you were technically the only other one who was there, did you have any comments or any changes to make to these?
No, I mean, I reviewed them so long ago. I don't remember, but nothing jumped out at me. So I moved to approve them.
Great. I didn't have any other changes either. Do I have a second for approval?
Sure, I'll second.
Great. And then if anybody's opposed to that, let us know now. Right, then the minutes from December are approved. We use kind of loose Roberts rules. We're not super specific about it, but we do try to just at least get votes and things through, at least through majority. So, okay, now I will close this and I will stop doing that and I will do this. And so you guys can see what we've got. Okay. Great. So we've already introduced all the new members here.
Sorry, I was just winging it and I knew it was on the agenda somewhere.
It's much better to introduce first and do business later. So that was great. Thank you so much for taking care of that. Doug did check in with me earlier. He has to leave at 5:45, so I'm going to slot him in. He's got a couple of things that he wanted to share. One is a video, and then one is about a flag that was found in West Linn. So I will just hand it over to you, Doug.
Sure. Thank you so much. A couple of things. Welcome everybody again. I wanted to talk to you a little bit on that old business about the art show at the library. I asked Cheryl Hill, who's one of our adult services librarians here, who also is the helps to coordinate our exhibition space inside the community room and other places in the library. And she wasn't able to make it to the meeting tonight, but she did make a video for us, and in it will, I think, answer a lot of the questions about how we go about doing things. It's very short. It's only 2 minutes and 35 seconds, but also what our plans going forward, including the art show that I think we're looking forward to having the Arts and Culture Commission to curate in the summertime. So if you don't mind, I will start with that. Let's see here. You all see that?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Cheryl and I'm one of the adult services librarians and I oversee the community room art gallery. I'm sorry I wasn't available to be here live tonight, but I've recorded this video to share some updates with you. After a 2-year pause, exhibits have once again resumed in the community room. Kathy Sandell had her art in the gallery for less than 2 weeks when everything shut down in March 2020, and we've invited her back. She installed her art on Monday. We have 5 other artists whose 2020 exhibits were postponed by the pandemic, and they are scheduled between now and July. The gallery has been reserved in August for the Arts and Culture Commission. I'm happy to coordinate logistics with you as the date draws closer, but the exhibit will be on display approximately through Monday, August 1st through Wednesday, August 31st. Although we do have a few pedestals in the room, the space is best used for wall hanging art. The library plans to do a call for artists this spring. We ask artists to fill out an application on our website and submit 5 digital images of their work. The submissions are evaluated by a committee comprising library staff and past artists during a 2-hour meeting at the library, although this meeting may happen on Zoom depending on the COVID situation at that time. I look forward to welcoming a member of the Arts and Culture Commission to be part of that selection process. Although the application form is not live yet, the information page and FAQ can be seen at this URL. If you know of anyone who is interested in applying, they can find out when the call for artists goes live by following us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or by subscribing to our email newsletter. There's a link for subscribing on that artist page. And finally, a bit of fun news. The library has been offering monthly take and make kits for adults. And in January, we offered a tiny art kit containing a small canvas, easel, paints, and brushes. We encouraged everyone to bring their art back for a tiny art show. And out of 26 kits given away, we had 8 people bring them back. The tiny art show is on display in the library now through February 14th. The kits were very popular and all were taken within the first 4 hours, so I plan to do this one again. Thank you, and please let Doug know if you have any questions for me.
All right, so she did a good job, didn't she? So that gives us it gives you all a little bit of an update on what we're doing. I know we talked about people on the committee being part of the selection committee going forward. I'll let you all decide that. I think it can be more than one as well. She mentioned one, but we have room for a couple if there are more than one that is interested in potentially being part of that jury selection. So, and then also, going forward with August. Carrie.
Oh, so I just had a question to clarify. So when she was talking about posting the call for art in the spring and then the resulting selection process, that's to tee up the full year of art programming at the library in general, right? That's not specific to the August show.
No.
Okay, that would be like a separate call and everything.
Yeah, separate call, completely curated by how you would like to do it as a commission.
Okay. Thanks.
They're rather, normally they would be doing a call for artists right now for the year, but because so many people missed out because of the pandemic, they're filling the slots in, the people that didn't get in for the rest of the year. So that's why they're waiting to do it this spring to pick up for the rest of 2022.
Right, that makes sense. I just wanted to make sure that the library show was kind of outside that normal.
She's just letting you guys know that that's your month for you guys to decide whatever you want to do and to have you guys be on that selection for the rest of the shows going forward, picking the artists that will put their art in the, for September, October, November, and December for the end of the year.
Got it. Thanks.
What was that URL that she flashed up on the screen?
Yes, that was a URL, and I'm happy we can send it.
Yeah, I'll include it in the minutes. All of the stuff that's written down that's important will be in the minutes, and I'll send those out. Usually I get them out within I'm pretty quick. 2 to 3 days is a long time if you don't have them by then. So it'll all be in there. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll also, that's a private URL for that video, but we'll leave that on there as too, so you can access it if you want to rewatch it. And then Cheryl's, we'll also put her email in too. It's actually a really good email. It's the best email in the city because we use our first letter of our first name with our last name and then at West Linn, Oregon. And her name is Cheryl Hill, so she's chill at westlinnoregon.gov. Kind of cool, right? So the other thing I wanted to talk about was recently, I would say a rediscovery happened at the city. We found or was located the original flag from 1908 that was flown on the first day of incorporation as a city, which of course is the predecessor to the city of West Linn. It's a very large 48-star map. I'm sorry, not map, flag, excuse me. It's been very well preserved and a lot of documentation about the history of that flag. Kathy Molesky and I, our city recorder, took it down to Framing Resources down in Southeast Portland, which in my previous life did a lot of the framing in the galleries that I was, with Lewis and Clark, where I was working with them, and also the Art Museum and others, to get a quote to have it framed. that quote finally came back, and since it actually is going to be, if it's framed, the largest piece they've ever framed, and they do most of the framing. Katayama did some of the framing for the art museum, but they do most of it for the art museum that they outsource. But it's also about $8,700 to get it framed correctly with the UV glass and all the rest of it, plexi. So it's really expensive. So the reason I'm coming to you is in talking to a couple of the folks that work there and are part owners that actually live here in West Linn. They've been pretty successful working with other artists to get RAC grants for framing. And I wanted to look at the idea and ask you if you would mind, as an Arts and Culture Commission, if I and the city wrote a grant for partial or some of that payment for the for that framing. I didn't want to presume that you were not all going to go for potentially for a RAC grant at this time. And if you were, then of course I would bow out and not do it, because I think that would be competing in our own backyard, and we don't need to do that. But if there isn't an intent at this point to do a RAC grant for this year, if you would mind if I went ahead and tried to do it for that framing project for the flag. So that's what I bring before you about that.
It's unfortunate timing because their last phase of, because I think they do like 4 a year, or at least I did this for this past year. The last deadline was last Wednesday.
Okay.
But
So it's on the next cycle through.
Yeah. They seem to do them so frequently though that if we were to apply for one as a group, then it wouldn't even necessarily need to be the same cycle, I would think.
Right. Sorry, my office light keeps going off because I'm not making any movement here. Anyway, okay, so if and I'm happy to, since there is a little delay, if you all want to talk about that, individually, collectively, it's fine. I'm not necessarily asking for an answer today, but I didn't want to assume. I think it's proper that we, as a city, we would come before the Arts and Culture Commission if we're going to go for an arts-related grant, to potentially ask the Arts and Culture Commission to at least say, yeah, where you won't be competing with something we're planning on doing, or we also want to, give our blessing to that endeavor. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking for resources from the Arts and Culture Commission, reserves. I'm not asking for you to write the grant. I'm just simply asking for the opportunity to write the grant for the city in anticipation of hopefully getting some resources for framing that big flag. And when it's done, if we do get it, we're able to do it. We're going to put it on the back of, right now, on the back side of the library, the library fireplace. So on the chimney inside, will fit in that area, in that space. I assume at some point, it wouldn't be there forever. Although it's such a big item, it'd be really hard to. It's going to take some work to bring it in and hang it and everything else. But, it easily could potentially, if there was the right space for it to be at Old City Hall, once that's reestablished, or, some other facility, it would be fine. But I think if we're able to do it, that's where we'll initially start it, to place it.
I think that's great, Doug. Thank you for letting us know. And I mean, from what I see on our agenda currently, we don't have any plans to go for a grant, but I do know Carrie has much more attention on when those things are due. So I do trust that she knows whether, if the next one is within the next 3 months. I can't imagine that we'll be doing anything. But
I only happen to know that one because of the Clackamas County Arts Alliance meeting I was on last week, because everybody's always talking about grants. So, so I'm very up to date on these things tangentially.
Right. Right. Well, keep us posted and let us know. I don't want you to do any work that would go wasted, but I don't think we have anything.
Maybe if you decide that it's a go, I will then start to pursue the dates, and I can come back at the next month meeting and kind of let you know the plan, and I'll start working on it with Kathy to write the grant, and also be working with Mark at the Framer Resources to help us with that as well.
Is the Historical Society involved with that as well?
At this present time, they are not involved in it yet. I haven't brought it to their, I do believe that there are people who know of this flag because there was things written about it all the way up to 2010. where it's been since 2010 till now. I can tell you, we found it in an archival box. It was very well protected, and then somebody had gone to the painstaking work, and also potentially looking at it to be framed. But I don't think that there's probably only one place that can do this kind of framing at this size, and even for them, it will be their biggest ever. So sourcing a piece of archival appropriate glass or plexi is going to be probably the biggest challenge, more than the support that's going to take for it. So anyway, I think it's worthy of its preservation. That's probably why it's so expensive. And I would bring it up to them, but I have not done that yet.
I wanted to add something, if I could,
Sure.
that flags tend to be interesting in the sense that for Indigenous people, they represent something very different. And in terms of colonialism and all of that. So, I've seen in places where I think when we were in Syracuse, we did a ceremony with the Indigenous folks that while we hang it up, to also acknowledge and make sure we invite Indigenous folks to acknowledge them and thanking them for sharing the land with us. That might be something that I just wanted to put out there.
Thank you for that. I think that's wonderful. And I think that certainly the Arts and Culture Commission and other groups from our community, when it comes to the point of when we do that piece, it would be more than appropriate that we make sure it's as inclusive as possible, and that we're showing respect and giving, commemorating the things that are positive and also maybe the things that aren't so positive about it. So I thank you for that. And I think that works perfectly into what we would want to do as a city. I can speak for the city, and I can't speak for the Arts and Culture Commission, but I know that's what we would want to do. And we'll be looking to do that and reaching out to make sure that we are talking to our colleagues at the tribes, and as well as our other groups in our community, and a call for, what might be appropriate so we can make sure it's as inclusive as possible.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Doug, for both the video and the information about the flag. I want to loop back around. I see Andrew has joined us. Andrew, I'm sorry you missed everybody's introductions, but if you don't mind just taking a minute to introduce yourself and just sort of who you are, where you're from, and why you're here.
Hi, I'm Andrew Young. I've been on the board for about a year, and I'm a local multidisciplinary artist. I've been a professional artist for about 25 years, and yeah, I'm here to help.
Right. Well, thank you for joining us at your earliest convenience. I know you were coming from something else. So let's see here. I will, oops, no. I'll drive this bus to this. Okay. So we've got just a couple of items of old business. Carrie, well, here's just some, I guess I'll give some historical background since we do have some new people. So some of what we've been working on for the last few years is just sort of figuring out how to connect with the community and how to let them know we're here and how to let them provide information about who they are and what they want to see, and some like who are artists as we sort of contemplate this show at the library in the summer. So prior to the holidays, we put together just a little postcard, basically, with some very basic information. And then I think it had a QR code and a like URL to just a Google Doc, basically, that had some very basic data collection, name, email, whether they're an artist themselves. And so we had that out at the Winter Main Street event. The Historical Society had them on their table for us. And I think that was really the only place they were able to get to. And so I don't know, I think Carrie, you said in an email we hadn't had great response, but if you want to share that.
We can look at the two we got. If you don't mind unsharing, then I shall share. 1 second to figure out what I did with it. There it is. So for folks who weren't here when we first authored the survey, I'll take a look at that part first. So it was ostensibly a mailing list sign up form, but with kind of the angle of wanting to get a better sense of what folks are looking for from our commission. And then also the urgency behind building out a mailing list right now is so that we can contact the right people in our community with regards to the show that we're doing in August. So it was real straightforward, just email address, kind of who are you and why do you care about the Arts Commission, and then types of programming that you're most interested in, and then just a open-ended verbatim. I lied, we got 3 responses, but I think only 2 people filled it out, but I really answered the questions. But we can see here, hold on, I want to look at the summary view. So we now have a mailing list consisting of 2 people. We could actually dig into the weeds to figure out where the overlaps are between here. But since we only have 2 people responding, it's not giving us, like a true representative sample of what folks are looking for, but it's a start. And it is at least a good pilot to confirm that our survey tool does indeed do what we want it to do. So I was thinking that we could look to cast a wider net with this. Like we could probably get the city to promote it on their social channels. I don't know if there's other places that makes the most sense to encourage people to take this. Maybe like at the community centers or places where people are participating. It's a little bit tough right now because there's so many things on hold to kind of get a hold of people where performing arts activities are happening, but we could try to cast a wider net with that.
I'm happy to have those postcards with QR codes here at Youth Music Project.
Oh, that'd be a great idea. Thanks.
Be great. I also was wondering, when Cheryl was talking, I mean, they must have some database of folks if she's done calls.
Oh, true.
Well, and I wouldn't want to necessarily farm from that, but to ask, maybe we have a conversation with her. Maybe we can even invite her to come to March's meeting and just kind of talk about how she set that up, or Doug, I mean, maybe if we could even have those. I know she's not at the desk all the time, but I did have a conversation with her. So maybe if we can have some of the cards at the library desk too, that might be helpful, and just spreading sort of the word or the digital.
We can just distribute them at any point at the library that you want. And I can ask for, Cheryl would normally be working tonight. This is just a one-time that she's at as another appointment. So this normally I think would work on a timeline that she could be with us. You could talk to her in this form as well.
Can I ask a question real quick about how, just because I'm new, I don't know. And is there a Facebook page at all for your social media?
Not for our commission.
Okay.
And I'm sure eventually we will, but to be honest, we're still kind of getting our legs underneath us. And so we haven't had the need, like this show was going to be our first time of needing to shout anything from the hilltops. So, so that's why we don't really have a mailing list yet. But I think in the past, the city has offered to promote anything we want to promote through the city's social channels. So we can at least start there.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that might be a good way to do. I do a lot of procurement for different organizations and different, basically being the person to reach out. And I feel just from, if you're going to a city's website, it can get you really, really buried, right? It's very, very hard to maneuver. And people are so used to being on Twitter, on Facebook, they're so used to being on Instagram, that if you had just those little tidbits, people would see it more than just a postcard at the library. And so those kind of little tidbits, I think, are really valuable. That's how we reach out. We don't even use paper anymore. It's just it became a waste and a moot point to kind of be more eco-friendly too. It's because nobody was taking it, and the ones that were taking it were putting it in the trash. So we stopped. So it was just an idea. I just was asking because that might be another way down the road just to get more awareness of it, about like just what's going on, and that this is an actual wonderful organization and to help it blossom. That's all.
No, absolutely. I completely agree. We just haven't had much to socialize yet.
Right. Yeah. But it could be a way to feature also your artists who show up. It could be on the Facebook page and see their art, and a link to take them to their website and their art. And for those people that are doing, like, looking for commissions, or, you know, there's so much you can do with those outlets, where they could go and say that that artist that we're supporting is going to be showing at another exhibit. Maybe it's at the Cider Ale House or something like that they're doing. Who knows what it is? But it's another way to reach a community, to reach out, and to be another, because people are going out. I mean, people are out and about, whether there's a pandemic or not, and ways to commission that art to be seen in other parts of the city would be, I think, very appreciated.
That's a good point. Doug or Mel, who does the city, like, if you follow the city of West Linn, who does those posts?
It's a great question, and it just has changed. It started 2 days ago. Her name is Danielle Choi, and she works here at City Hall. And she just started 2 days ago. She's the new community outreach coordinator. And so she does it along with Dylan Digby, who's the assistant to the city manager. But we're happy also to put the URLs and also the QR codes on all our social media that we run for the library. And I know that all we just need to do is ask Dylan, and we can do it at the city as well, on the city's sites.
Okay, maybe we could throw together a little square graphic that we could get tossed out on both the libraries and the city's Instagram. Because we wouldn't want to reuse the flyer, because putting a QR code on Instagram would be very circular. Although maybe that's art right there. Maybe we could just do like a conceptual art piece as our coming out there. But yeah, we can, yeah, I think we definitely need to, we've only been relying on paper so far. But I think we definitely need to push it out there, especially, I mean, the survey itself is of course online, so.
I think that's a great idea. And I also think that there's a lot more that the city could be utilizing with the artist and not just the library, but the community, so that it's another easy way to be tangible. Because I mean, I was on West Linn Willamette on Friday night, and I had to find a spot where I felt like everyone felt like the pandemic was over for some reason. It's like I have to go sit outside. So it's funny how people are going, and they will go and do different things. And I think if they saw it and it was commissioned through the city, it could be a really valuable asset to add to it, because you know, it could be the art around, you know, art in town, you know, come see it. It could be at the youth music project, right? You know, they have great events there, used to anyway. So it could be just, you know, where there's different alleys that we could be using for this, that instead of just having one event, you know, where we could be doing it as a continuum all the time, you know, which would be kind of neat for the artists themselves.
Yeah, I think none of us, well, I will speak for myself. I absolutely agree. And as Carrie said, we've just sort of spent the last few years trying to get our feet under us, and what are we allowed to do? What are we not allowed to do? How do we get a hold of people? Yeah, how do we pay for things? It's all a little confusing, but I think those, like, I love all of those ideas. I mean, the Cider Ale House, the music project. We've had, you know, talks about doing, it didn't go anywhere, but like, you know, having different groups paint trash cans or paint bees and put them around town or whatever. Like,
exactly.
But we've just been sort of stunted by logistics and bureaucracy a little bit. So
absolutely. Yeah, I think we all have.
Can I ask a question about the show in August? Is there like, is there already like a theme or some kind of, or is that up to us now to decide? Fun.
Up to us, yes. Doug very generously offered the space for us for August. And so that was sort of all we decided in December was, okay, let's do it. And then now
Yeah, we just had that one meeting where we really discussed it. Some of the ideas we were throwing around was like perhaps for this one, since it's our initial kind of foray into the community public facing in a public facing way, that we might just do West Linn artists for this one. So it's more about bringing the immediate community together with an eye toward future shows where it would be a broader regional or, whatever the case might be call.
Yeah, it's not a very big space. So
Reception. We'll do a gallery opening, if you will, a reception as well, if you want.
Mhm.
Fun.
party.
Fancy.
Well, that is a good transition, I think, to the next agenda item, which is the show at the library. So if there are, I think this is my experience thus far is we all are passionate and have these great ideas. And yeah, it's just sort of building the infrastructure to be able to implement them is taking us a little bit longer. Thank you, Doug, for your time than we probably would choose. But I think we've got the show in August. We've got sort of a general theme. We do have proposed sort of processes in our bylaws, which we are still awaiting to get technically approved. But we have sort of an outline of how we think a call might look. But I invite conversation here about how we might reach out to folks or, particularly in the West Linn community itself, I'm sure there are more artists than we probably anybody knows about. But sort of, I'm happy to continue the conversation about how to reach out to them, how we can potentially tap into some of the existing communication streams or other art events that might be able to help us cull our own list.
So are you looking, go ahead, Carrie, sorry. No, I'm new. I have another question, that's all. I was just gonna ask if, for the artist that you're looking for, is there, do you want them to be like a professional artist, or it can be anyone who can submit for like amateur all the way through?
I think so. I cast a much broader net typically, I think, than maybe some other more technical sort of arts kinds of things, but it's up to us basically is the short answer. So
when I was getting the impression that, I might have just had these assumptions going in, but what my assumptions was that we would have an open call for art that we were putting out to the community. Folks would submit their work however we line up, and since we do have limited space, there'd be a jury process, but it would be open to any West Linn resident that wanted to submit work. We had talked a little bit with Nancy is officially no longer a member, huh? But she had mentioned that she'd be happy to, she's a teacher at West Linn High School, that she'd be happy to work with the art instructors at West Linn High as well. So there's also a potential of doing like a student section of the show, or whatever the case might be.
That's
Easy
exactly
enough
what I was
to reach
thinking.
out to her, though. It's easy enough for us to get a hold of Nancy.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
That was going to be my next question, is like, what's the youth component? How are we going to involve the
Yeah.
youth? Glad you're already thinking about it.
I know, I was thinking that too. I'm like, well, my daughter's an artist. She paints all the time. I'm like, it's so just, that should be and that's could be a whole nother entity, like, youth, a whole one just for that,
I don't know if that could be a whole show. Is just
Could be a whole show.
Anybody
It could be.
under 18.
And we also have at the library, Kimberly, who is our young, I think she does K through 6. because the tween librarian is, but she goes into all of the primary schools once a week to pick up the books that the parents drop off so that it's not chaotic. And her husband used to be the superintendent of West Linn Wilsonville School, and she worked over at Lowry before we stole her and she came to the library. So she's got a lot of contacts. So you guys could create a flyer. We could give it to her. She could drop it off at all of the different schools so that everybody's getting the information. And that's another way to reach out to the little artists in our community, so to speak.
Yeah, and the flyer also, if you like, I was on the board for PTA, the PTA and PTO forever. And they'll put it in their newsletter. If we send it to them, they'll put it into the tweet at Trillium or at Sunset or whatever. And, you know, because the paper, I mean, mine always I never found it in my kid's backpack. It was crumpled in the bottom, but I did look at the newsletter. So, but it's a great way to reach out. And I mean, they'll definitely do that. I think it's a great idea because that gets them motivated to do something fun. Excuse me.
You guys want to discuss whether or not we want to do that in August and keep it in the youth zone, or if we'd like to save that for another time and just open it more broadly?
I think it'd be nice to do it more broadly, especially for our very first show, to be open to, you know, artists of West Linn. We don't have a ton of space. I guess because of that, I'm almost wondering, like, well, should we just do high school age, or like should we maybe, instead of having it as an open call for students, could we coordinate with the art teachers to hand select a few pieces, just to make sure that I'd want to make sure that there was a wide breadth of however we're defining the audience. Like, I wouldn't want every single first grader in West Linn to submit a piece of art if we only got to choose half of one in terms of how much space we had, right? Obviously,
and we're looking,
but
sounds like we're looking for a broader audience to then view the art, and youth art has a limited appeal. People who are not their parents or grandparents. So
yeah. I think I do like the idea anyone can submit. My thought was it wasn't being like an art project at the schools, but if they want to do it there's some talent or whatever, they're happy to submit it, right? And another fun thing you could do with the art that is submitted that's not chosen, right? That's when you could put it on the social media to draw more awareness and kind of an excitement around it, saying, here's some wonderful things that were submitted. Look at these great things. And it becomes almost like a slideshow for your Facebook or whatever. You can use it for different snippets, because August is right now a few months away, right? So to build up that kind of, it's just a fun way that they go, oh, my art was on the Facebook page, you know, like they could get to see it. And that's, like you said, like what you're saying, you're capturing, right, Susan, the fun excitement, but then you have some really cool artists where maybe those kids want to go see this artist, you're like, that's what they do, right? So I think that's kind of a neat way to kind of take it, like where you take it to the next level, right? So there might be some kid who blows us away, who's a 12-year-old who's amazed. You're like, how's that kid 12 doing this, right? And so you never know. I love that. And then, but I think there's a way we could capture the ones that are submitted to another way to capture the kind of the attraction of the whole event, right? So
one thing we could consider too, in terms of just allowing, like, having more real estate for promoting work, is like the Wilsonville Arts Commission right now is doing a call for a show where they are selecting a certain number to display in person, but they're also doing a virtual gallery with a large number of works. Now there again, that of course opens up all kinds of infrastructure questions, because right now our website is a page on the city site. And so then we have to start wondering about, like, well, then how are we paying for hosting costs, and where is the site coming from, et cetera, et cetera. But that would be potentially one way that we could accommodate more pieces.
Another thing that we might consider is that since we're still trying to identify artists, even if we don't utilize all of the art that's submitted, that will help us, you know, identify artists. Yeah. And so if there's an overwhelming amount of children who submit work, even if it's not all appropriate for this show specifically. We could say, oh, wow, we've got an audience that's ready to do a children's themed show. And we could plan that in the future. And then, there's phenomenal artists that are children as well. And so I think really we shouldn't limit it too much. Just see who submits. And if we have too much stuff, that's a good problem to have. Then we'll be able to pick the pieces that make the best sense in the show.
And remember, we also have the display cases. We have 3 empty display cases at the library. And then we have little nooks and crannies in spaces in the library that are kind of bare that we could do, like what Cheryl was talking about. Nice job, Lauren, saw your little miniature painting in there. And so there's, they wouldn't, if we had a little overflow and there's some places in the library where we used to have people come in, and every month they would bring in something for the case. Like at Halloween, one lady collected all these cool old Halloween decorations and just all different kinds of things that have gone into those cases. And it's pretty amazing the amount of stuff that you can get in there. So those are also available to use as well at the library.
Is there typically or are we thinking for this show that there's a certain kind of media that we would want to have, like photography or oil paintings or sculpture, or is there any thought around that in our criteria, or is it still up in the air, or do we care?
All still up in the air. I think, as Doug said, the gallery itself, somebody maybe even carries it anyway, but due to the space, it's really just needs to be a 2D media. There's not great space to put a lot of sculptures or pottery or jewelry or anything. So I think that's as far as we've gotten in terms of that. But I do think as an opportunity to sort of just get everybody who we can get. And maybe once all of the submissions are in place, a theme kind of organically emerges from what there is, if it's, trees or I don't even know, but you can have a rainbow going around the room, but that before we know who anybody is or what anybody's doing, what if we did say photography and it turns out, obviously this wouldn't happen, but there's only 5 photographers in Westland, or there's only 3 people who do oil painting. I guess we're doing oil painting. That I think is just such a great opportunity to educate ourselves and each other about what people are doing out there. So that would, my suggestion would be to be more broad, but it may bite us in the end. We'll see.
And even thematically, I think it'd be nice to have a pretty wide open thing. With an eye toward branding the show, we would probably still want to have a stated theme, but it could be something that could be interpreted in any way.
Right.
Life in West Lynn, or whatever the case.
Colors.
Yeah, exactly. Easily the enchanted forest. We have so many forests around us, and down by the river. It could be anything like that. So to incorporate it.
We could even just kind of, in the sense of doing it in a broad theme, we could just say, hey, this is a state of the arts in West Lynn. This is what artists are doing right now. And so we could limit it to works done within the past 2 years, say. And so it can be
a good idea.
Anything that's 2D that would fit in the space, but things that are current that people are doing right now, I think would be really neat.
Mm-hmm.
I love that idea, Andrew. I think it has the opportunity to kind of reflect people's feelings and thoughts about our current state of affairs in the world, which could be pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that as well.
It allows that kind of expression to happen without saying, this is a pandemic theme.
Yeah. What have you been doing while you've been stuck inside? Making art? Let's see it. Dr. Joy or Charity, what do you guys think about that as a potential parameter?
I love it. I think within the last 2 years is great. I think that's good. Because someone, I mean, you don't want to have somebody submit something they did 30 years ago, you know, or I think it'd be kind of a cool idea. Like it's got to be current. Just say current. Let's be current.
Yeah. Or just before, like you said, some people had wanted to, or the presentation said some people had wanted to submit something prior that they just did, but then couldn't because of the pandemic. So it could be just before, but the theme could still be, more contemporary as in the last 3 years at least.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of just having a broad theme. That way, the more we collect, the more things we can see, the more, I'm hearing things that I agree with.
And it'd be a great way, and I'm happy to do it as being that, or just to volunteer. Like, say there is something that comes in, it doesn't get chosen, but it's such a great theme that maybe it would fit well down at 1933, you know, like, or something like that. Say it's some amazing photography that, like, oh, that really fits the theme of that, the feel of that, you know. And I'm happy to go to the owner and say, hey, would you be interested in, you know, just showing some of the art, and say Westland artist, blah, blah, you know, something like that. I think it's a great opportunity to put 2 and 2 together in a lot of ways when people are there and go, oh, that's really cool. I had no idea these artists were here, you know. And of course, during the summer, we have all this time during the Wednesday farmers market, and there's so many vendors now where it could be, you know, there could be one each week that we're featuring, you know, something just, maybe it's an artist that didn't make it to the big show, but we can be featuring there as a table there in the Westland farmers market. And I go, yeah, well, we're having a big show. You know, there's the top ones that won to be shown, but this artist submitted and we're featuring them this week. I mean, that's a great way to reach out to people. That place gets packed. So I think it's a great other way to reach out to in person.
The other location that, remember you guys at one point pre-pandemic, Carrie and Lauren, the McLean House does that, does a show. And I can't remember, was that in the spring or early summer?
There was one in the spring of, I want to say 2019. It was like an art and garden gala or something.
Yeah, it wasn't like May or June.
It was
I
April.
can check with Mike Waters and see if maybe they're doing that this year, because that would be another place that if you guys are overwhelmed with Westland artists, it would give you another, if you're interested in doing that, just another place to display. So
is that where they used to do the tea? Tea every year? Yeah, that's a great space.
Yes, exactly.
I like the idea in general of sort of the overflow places. I mean, again, I am imagining that we're going to get thousands of entries, maybe just hundreds, but you know, that there's a lot of artists out there that we don't know what they're doing, but the adult community center and the restaurants, downtown, and that there's restaurants along 43. I'm sure Backyard Burger would be willing, like they seem very community oriented. Anyway, there seems like it's a lot of opportunity to, well, maybe you don't get in the library, but we'll put you somewhere. We will put you somewhere.
Yeah.
People will see your stuff.
Yeah, you could easily make it some kind of fun contest with at least like gift basket for winners, or that it's, you know, we want to display the art. We're artists in Westland. Let's find you and let's show you off, you know, something fun like that. And then it could be very ethereal if it's something that evolves to something that fits that area. You know, and then start just hopefully display around town, and then it builds up this momentum to something like the big event, right? And then you have, like what Doug says, you know, he says you have a reception. You can easily have musicians outside, you know, if it's a nice day, you know, that like they do across the street at 503 where they have like the jazz happy hour jazz band or whatever, something nice where people are coming in and it's lovely, you know, you know, so all kinds of fun things. There's all kinds of neat things we could do with that.
Sorry, my daughter.
From a just a logistical standpoint, we do have a really good resource in that Clackamas County Arts Alliance group, because they're almost all of them. There's a few arts commissions that are kind of getting up and running that are where we were a couple of years ago, but most of them are well established and doing these types of things all the time. And so we have a really good resource there of folks who are willing to share, the text of their calls, their different policies, best practices, what they've learned, et cetera. So as we're getting to that point of actually drafting all that stuff, we can hopefully not start from scratch in all of those. Sorry, just for clarification. So Clackamas County Arts Alliance just recently started up a group that is basically a collection of liaisons of all the groups like this and other arts related groups. So it's mostly city arts commissions, but there's folks from some local galleries and other arts groups.
That's great, Carrie. Actually, I sort of two questions that I want to ask at the same time. One, if you could maybe bring some of that language next month, that might be helpful. And then I guess the question that goes with that is, do you guys want to break into do you want to do a subcommittee for this call to arts for the show in August, or do you want to do it as a full commission in terms of sort of wordsmithing and putting it all together? Just looking at the calendar with next month being March, it's not a ton of time to kind of get people together, and also we have to build our contact list. So it does seem like it might be easier to split the work, but I'm only in charge hopefully for another 15 more minutes. So
my only request is that we don't try to actually author it live on the calls, because we've done that in the past. Speaking for myself, that's a very painful process. It can be much faster done of somebody just tearing out a draft, and even if it's horrible, be like, here's what I have. Tell me what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, so Carrie, would you like to author a draft for the call, or since you have sort of the access to these resources, and then
Or
bring
we could
that?
at least just we could start by just looking at a bunch of calls. I mean, as an artist, I'm constantly monitoring calls for art, so I'm familiar with the genre. But I could also get some examples from our other peers, and especially with the kind of being part of a government entity that might put a spin on things that is different from your average call. So I'll reach out to that group too and ask for best practices and stuff.
Okay. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, Andrew, obviously you're functional working 2D artist. So it might make the most sense for you and Carrie to sort of coordinate on, does this look like something we've seen before? Does this look like something we haven't? And then if you could maybe bring it here, some sort of draft, maybe in March. April just feels like, maybe in April, that'd be fine. Again, I'm only in charge for 10 more minutes, so.
I'd be happy to collaborate on that. Absolutely.
Right.
And if you guys come up with something that you want me, if you want to send it out to everybody, remember you can send that out with the draft to everybody via email, so they have a chance to review it, so that you're not spending your whole hour going through the document, and kind of get it out to people ahead of time, so everybody has a chance to look stuff over. Like I sent out the minutes to Charity, Joy, and Susan, so that they had them, so they kind of had an idea what was going on. So there's always that option.
Our time discussing, not reading together.
Exactly.
Great. That'd be wonderful. And we'll see what happens. I mean, nobody knows that we're doing this except for us. So if we miss a deadline, it's totally fine. Okay, I think that I'm excited, and I'm super excited to be a part of this show and helping to put it together. I do want to be a little mindful of the time, so I'm going to move us on. Without Doug here, Mel, I'm not sure if you know where we might stand with bylaws to the council, or Mary, if you know if we're on the calendar, or if you guys have looked at them just to approve them and bless us.
I have not. We have not, as a council, done that yet. So
Thanks finding a slot for you guys, but I will follow up with Kathy and be sure to have an answer for you guys in March. With an
That'd be great.
ETA. How about that?
Yeah, I don't know
You
if
guys
we
work so hard. That's what you've been focusing on the last couple of years. It's really getting those nailed down. So we need to get them up to council for you.
Is
Yeah.
there any risk that we should be aware of if for some reason they keep getting pushed out? If we put on a show or even put out a call and we don't have any officially blessed policies behind us, are we going to be putting ourselves at risk?
Mary, I mean, I don't think so, because I think you're doing what the council has asked you to do. And you've got time, as long as we're following in the rules and regulations and working with Shane on, you know, what you guys are getting out there, which Doug and I can be the go-to runners and get the answers to those questions for you before the bylaws get in front of council. I think that you should be good. Mary may jump in and say something different.
No, that sounds exactly what I was going to say.
Okay. So, yeah, we'll definitely double check on anything you guys bring out and make sure that, you know, there's no breaking any rules, but I don't think it's going to be any jeopardy of anything. And we have a little bit of time. So I think we'll be okay. But I will definitely get an ETA for you guys for in March of when we can get you on the agenda in front of council.
Thanks. Well, I don't know if we even need to, like, when you say in front of council, do you mean having the vote on the bylaws on the agenda, or?
It has to formally be on council's agenda, and all the rules and regulations that go along with that. So you have to formally be put on the docket or on their agenda. And that's all ran through Kathy, depending upon other items that the council is currently working on. So just you guys don't need to necessarily be in front of council, but just to have them presented, that needs to be on their agenda so that they know to allot enough time that they can read over them, review them, all that kind of stuff. So.
Because I know once upon a time, many moons ago, we were planning on actually being there in force and kind of presenting our case. But it was so long ago that now I feel like it's just kind of like, just vote on this.
And I think back in the beginning when we all started this, I think we went up there on more than one occasion to sit in front of council and yeah, so I think we've learned a lot doing what we're doing. So I think we'll be okay. If that changes, I'll be sure to let somebody know, but I think we're okay for now.
Great. Thank you, Mel.
Uh-huh.
Okay. The only piece of new business we have officially is to elect a new chair and vice chair. So as we said, currently I am the chair, Carrie's the vice chair. I've been in this role for a year. Carrie she was the chair before and then vice chair. So she's sort of been in a leadership role for a couple of years. I see we did lose Dr. Joy. She let me know that her phone was running out of battery. So we should definitely elect her. It's not fair. But if anybody who is here is interested in either of the roles, please, indicate that, or if anybody has a nomination. It is hard since we're missing a couple of folks, but maybe we can at least have a conversation about it and maybe vote next month if we have to. But
Lauren and Carrie, could you talk a little bit about the roles and like time commitment and that kind of thing?
Sure. I will say, I mean, Mel makes it super easy. In some ways, she sends you the reminder that an agenda needs to be put together. So thus far, for me personally, the in-between time has been fairly minimal. I was on one of the subgroups that was sort of working more specifically on the bylaws and stuff and doing the wordsmithing off to the side, but that was more of just a general role versus a chair role. I do think it could be made into something more if somebody wanted to do something more, just in terms of like some of the social media posting and things like that. I had one thing that I thought about posting and I was like, I just can't even be bothered. But really, it's just a matter of making sure we have the agenda ready to go 10 days to 2 weeks before the meeting. And then if there's been very minimal in between stuff. And I mean, again, Carrie has taken on some projects, but those are a little bit more her wheelhouse projects versus chair projects, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree that the chairness was less of my time than various projects. Yeah, at least for me, the being vice chair is negligible, except for when Lauren's not here and then I'm chair. Yeah, so you're running meetings. When I was doing it, I would usually hop on my laptop, I don't know, 15 to 20 minutes in advance to make sure I knew where the agenda was and that I knew where all the documents were. It's like if we were reviewing things, make sure I had all that stuff in front of me. Just kind of get my brain primed for all the stuff we're going to talk about. I think there's a little bit more of fielding stuff, like as the chair, and I don't know if you've experienced this too, Lauren, but as the chair, you tend to be the person that people come to if they're like, hey, I've seen about putting this on the agenda, or, you know, like, so there's some like one-off, yes, let's do that as a group types of things, but it certainly wasn't, you know, a major time commitment.
I spend less time as the chair of this commission than I ever did as the neighborhood association president. So if that gives you any indication.
Well, I hesitate to throw my chair in the ring being a new person, but I'm not opposed to it. Like if nobody else is willing to do it, I'm certainly happy to.
Well, I'm happy to co-chair it. Can Susan and I just co-chair with each other and share it? I do enjoy co-sharing.
Depends on the bylaws and what it says in the bylaws, right?
Can I just, because I mean, that would be great. That's why I enjoy doing that. So.
Yes, it's good to have a buddy.
I will say that not specific to your bylaws, but just to the community advisory groups. I know there are some with co-chairs. So
well, and it's from a governance standpoint, the stuff that governs us is the same thing that governs all the community advisory groups. So if others are getting away with it, then we can too, I would say.
Yeah, we do a lot of there's a lot of co-chairing and you know, PTA, PTO. I mean, nobody wanted to be like front leader. We finally said, can we just all co-chair? It's too much work to be one person. So
all I know is I've appreciated both of your feedbacks, and so I approve the co-chair proposal.
I don't mind leading a meeting. I used to study Robert's Rules of Order and train other people how to do it from my work in PTA. You know, I'm a little rusty. It's been a bit, but so I'm not afraid to do that work, but I also don't want to come in as the new person and go, I'm in charge now or anything like that. So
that's exciting. When I was chair, like I still know very little about Robert's rules. And so I always felt like I was screwing something. I'd always be like, y'all okay with that? Great. You know, like,
hey, if the group's okay with it, it's okay.
You were great, Carrie.
That's good.
Awesome.
Well, and you certainly wouldn't be alone. I mean, me and Carrie are here as resources, and as you've seen, it's we're the fun commission.
Yeah,
so
yeah, that's what I want to know.
All right, well, so without any further ado, I would like to motion for Susan and Charity to take on the roles of co-chairs starting in the March meeting.
I second.
I third.
Yay.
Oh boy.
Here we go, Charity.
Anybody opposed?
What have we gotten ourselves into?
Here we go.
Lauren and I are retiring.
I mean, like I
Don't
said, I
look
do
too
think it could
happy
be,
right now.
it could be fun, and you could do more with it, like, but it is, you know, there's a spectrum, like all of those things. Of it can be just running the meetings and making sure we're sort of not losing our wheels, or I love some of the ideas you guys have already put out that it feels like, oh my gosh, why didn't we ever think of that? So super excited.
We'll take it to the next level, Susan.
All right, here we go.
Yay. Okay, then to wrap up, we usually just have a board comments time. If anybody has anything that they know of is coming up that they'd like to share with the group as a potential art thing. I did see that Portland Open Studios is opening their call for artists. And so that was the one thing actually that I was like, I could post that on like the West Linn community page or whatever as the chair of the Arts Commission of like, hey, I know you're out there. Like, I want to see more West Linn art and artists. I want to go to your studios, sign up for this, or I guess you apply, you don't sign up. So, yeah, if anybody else had any other opportunities or options for folks to be aware of or get involved.
Have any of you been inside Youth Music Project?
Yes.
Yes.
We have I don't know if you've been in here in the last couple of years. It's been limited, especially because of COVID, but in December 19, we had an art installation of a tree that was here on the property and had to be removed because it was diseased. And our founding family sent it off to artist Skip Anderson out in Sisters, and he carved the most beautiful sculpture out of the tree and it represents rock, pop, and country, and it's got all these instruments in it and all these faces and singing kids, and the community knows about this art piece, and I feel hesitant to talk about it because I don't want a lot of traffic in the lobby while we have all this COVID precautions going on and masking and all of that. It just wouldn't be appropriate. But at some point, I think it would be really cool to share this more with the community, this beautiful art piece that's just sitting in our lobby. It's really cool.
That would be a perfect addition for, I actually meant to bring this up earlier, for one thing that we've been working on and kind of fits and starts is putting together a map of art and cultural things of significance in West Linn.
I love it. I love like a treasure hunt or a passport of art stops.
Exactly. And it's just a Google map. But I'll send out the link to everybody and see if people want to add like the spreadsheet that you started, Lauren, because I want to get that into a publishable state. And we can make sure that we are accounting for anything that people know of off the top of their heads. Unfortunately, with taking a spreadsheet and turning it into a Google map, however many rows are in your initial spreadsheet is how many spots are on your map. And the only way you can add more things is if you build a new map.
Oh my goodness.
I found a little hack to that. But we want to make sure that we have a pretty good sense of what we want to get out there before we go live with it. So I'll send out the list of spots along with a handful of questions I have, and we can make sure that we get. We do have the stained glass on there, so we can just kind of append that to also include.
Did you all know that we're also the home of the Oregon Music Hall of Fame?
No.
We are actually the museum for the Oregon Music Hall of Fame, and it's in the lobby, and it's not a bit, it's just basically a display, and there's an interactive touch screen. You can listen to their music on the headphones and stuff like that, but it's not major, but it is here in West Linn.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Very
Well,
cool.
and I in the last, I don't know, I guess couple years, the city's Parks and Rec department has done like a scavenger hunt, I guess, sort of sorts of like, you go and find the leprechaun in the parks. And like, we actually went to parks we have never been to before, and we've lived here for 6 years. And I was like, this is amazing. So similarly, I'm sure we could do something once everybody's ready to like, go and find the wooden face music thing, and like, you get a stamp or whatever, and you get a prize. And
I'm going to call it that from now on, the wooden face music thing.
My family,
I love it.
We did the West Linn Passport in all the parks a few years back, and we absolutely adored it. It was fantastic. It got us all over the place, and my daughter really enjoyed it. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, definitely use the wineries. You got to use the West Linn wineries. You only have like 5 now. So, I mean, the commissioned art at the wineries, and they get to go have a glass of wine on top of it. It sounds like a good plan to me. So I think that would be great.
I don't hate that.
I don't hate it either. I would totally run that one.
That's awesome. Okay, anything else that anybody would like to share about what they have going on?
Just that I'm helping with the Eco School Network with their auction. And it's going to be experiences that they're auctioning off, or I guess you sign up, but they're basically doing these auction things. So if anyone has any ideas for me for that, I have already procured, like the Ale and Cider House has donated the backspace for part of the event for one of the auction items. So I'm open to anything and everything you have. It might be a fun experience that people would sign up as for the Eco School Network that helps them. So.
I have lots of ideas, but no connections. So
That's okay. I'll take the ideas. They've got great. There's some really neat things they're doing. It's just, I'm trying to like hone it in now for different things that they're doing for different events. So it's going to be kind of neat. I'll send it to all of you when it comes out for the different things.
Great. Well,
I do have one thing. I have one thing to highly recommend. This is just kind of an aside. If anybody hasn't done the Van Gogh exhibit,
Oh yeah,
it is totally worth it, and it's leaving on the 12th. So just to put that out there.
it was really cool. We really enjoyed it.
yeah, definitely a different kind of thing. We should do one of those here. Anyway, see ideas, no resources.
That's where you use that room in that library, just have them project things to the walls and people would go.
There is a projector in there.
Perfect.
That's all you need.
Exactly. It's in the public domain. We could do our own.
Totally do it.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, I will go ahead and adjourn us. And I'm so excited to work with all of y'all, and Mel will be in touch. I think Charity and Susan was just sort of if there's any logistical things, but again, Carrie and I are here we could like all 7 of us could co-chair this.
Oh, it's going to be a group effort. So.
Yeah, we're here to help. So look forward to spending some time and maybe eventually seeing you outside of this little